Redditors who have lost their storage containers to auctioneers due to unpaid rent. What expensive, mysterious or valuable treasures did you own in there that you'll never see again? 2,000 plus shot glass collection and my entire roofing business. Shared a storage unit with my oldest daughter. Gave her my half of the rent every month and she kept the cash instead of paying. This is the most selfish, hurtful thing. People like that don't change. My mother was like that. 12 years of radio silence on my end and she still doesn't get even after it was written down for her. This 100% is the saddest post I read on here. This happened to my parents. Because we were super poor growing up and living paycheck to paycheck, they had a lot of items they couldn't fit or keep dragging around to the apartments we were in and out of at the time. They had a family friend who gave them some kind of insanely low discount on a storage container to hold their things. Of course, mom and dad jumped at the thought of having a place to store their items of sentimental value. Turns out the dude was just taking their money. This friend never paid the rent on the storage unit at all. It probably wasn't even his unit in the first place. Mom and dad never figured out who the actual owner of the unit was, and who's going to pursue legal action when you're trying to keep the lights on and food on the table for your kids. My parents lost my mom's wedding dress, my dad's tools, family photos, that sort of thing. That was almost 30 years ago and my mom is still so sad about it. That's so horrible. My dad had his brother stop paying for a storage unit without even mentioning it. The only thing my dad has ever mentioned wishing he still had is his comic book collection with hundreds of comic books. They're not on speaking terms. My mom had a storage unit that contained every single item of mine from the time I was a baby until I was about 14. All but about 3 pictures of me as a kid. All of my dad's Marine Corps pictures, uniforms, etc. Plenty of nice butt tools worth thousands. Furniture, you name it. She just stopped paying it 1 month and never told me until a year later when I asked to borrow the key so I could go get my dad's pictures and uniforms for him. They've been divorced for years. I worked for a storage company for about 4 years. Part of my job was to prep delinquent storage units for auction. I saw some sad stuff get sold. Wedding dresses, graduation photos. Sometimes whomever bought a unit would leave stuff like that. We would call the owner to retrieve their stuff, but they stopped answering their phones from the store at that point. My parents separated when I was 13. Dad kept the house, but was on SSDI and couldn't afford the mortgage. He put everything in storage when they foreclosed and passed away a few months later. We lost everything. All of our furniture, family keepsakes like old beer steins and a banjo that had been passed down from my father's father, and so many other things. All of our childhood toys, all the old pictures of my dad when he was younger. Priceless things. My heart hurts for you. My brother had sold his house and moved into an apartment and was having financial difficulties. He put a lot of stuff into storage including some furniture and a whole lot of guitars, basses, audio and mixing equipment. After a long while, he comes to me to help out. He was falling behind. So I go over to help him move his stuff to my house. Turns out they had sold his unit about 10 days before. Probably close to $20k worth of equipment he had acquired over the years. He just looked shattered. I felt so bad for him. My mom and dad divorced and my mom put everything in a storage unit until she could find a house. She ended up in the hospital for a while and she thought it was on automatic payment. It wasn't. She lost everything including handmade furniture by her great grandpa, antiques she collected, family heirlooms, etc. We tried contacting the storage unit to ask if we could buy back the unit from the buyer for more than they bought it for, but we never got a response back after multiple calls and messages. I was most upset that we lost all of our Christmas decorations. It may seem silly, but all of our stockings were handmade by my grandma who passed and every ornament on our tree was from a vacation or special occasion with the family that is impossible to replace. Every time I'm home I can't help but check out the local Goodwill and Salvation Army to see if they got donated. My friend had one with a lot of weed in it. He went to go get some out of the unit and the lock had been changed. The owner probably got high for a year. That is some old butt weed, lol. Not me, but my uncle had a storage unit and nothing much of value, but he did tell me that when he was cleaning it out, he did find items that wasn't his. Told the manager and claims to have no clue how that happened. One of the items was an antique silver set from the 1900s that he found with his comic books. Maybe he stole it, stashed it, and forgot about it. Then goes back with you and he's all like, whoa, I forgot about that. Gee, how'd this stuff get here? Haven't even checked it for it marks yet. We'd better go ask the manager about this mysterious antique silver set so it can find its way back to its rightful owner. I put my valuables in the basement of a sweet middle-aged lady for safekeeping when I left Germany to go home to another country for Christmas break. She had a heart attack and no one had contact information for her children. I had traveled the world, America, Asia, Europe, UK, Middle East, and I lost all of my mementos and family heirlooms. I'm glad I still have my memories, but I still feel a pang. Her adult children must have been very confused by the little bazaar they found. The most valuable thing I own is my cat. Now, I'm not so attached to things anymore. The upside is that I don't spend a lot of money on useless stuff. Not exactly what the OP is asking for, but my dad once bought a few of these stupid storage units. Inside one of them were dozens of filing cabinets and papers. The deal was, he had to clean it out no matter what was in it. He ended up bringing all those cabinets to our garage and started going through them. Inside were forged real estate documents, stacks of uncut counterfeited American bills of different denominations, and some legitimate business paper. He ended up turning it all over to the police. A few days later we found out it was somehow connected to our neighbor down the block. Last I remember hearing was he ended up fleeing the country, leaving behind his wife and son. You're lucky your dad didn't wake up dead if the neighbor down the street saw him hauling those cabinets home. Depressing stories of people who lost irreplaceable sentimental keepsakes. Television told me the only things in storage units are trash or rare trinkets with unpredictable value. Television lies and now my heart hurts. Honestly, those shows and the people who make money flipping that stuff probably define anything that can't make them money as trash. My aunt and uncle split. Their animals came to us and all their stuff went into storage while they sorted their crap out, and both traveled for a few months. Both thought the other was paying for the unit as they agreed to do it. Neither was. When my uncle got back and got a place to live, he went to get some of his stuff from the unit and found the lock didn't fit his key. Yet gone. Not at auction but to various charities. His ex-wife used to collect antiques, so someone would have cashed in at their local Vinnie's. Unless the storage owner lied. But my uncle went up shopping a day or so later and found some of his old ski gear in one of the shops. LOL, that's all he found though. I've never lost anything in a storage locker. Keep our bill paid and most of the stuff in there isn't worth much anyway. But my daughter works for a company that does estate sales, auctions, etc, and her boss does go out and bid on storage lockers a few times a month as well. At any rate, a few months ago, he won a locker and, while going through it, he found one of those small $30 fire safes like you buy at Walmart, brought it back to their office, broke it open and found $10,000 in cash, a Tiffany tennis bracelet, worth about $8,000, and 3 rings, altogether worth about $700. Like several other people here have mentioned, I'd kinda like to know the backstory on the original owners, because I don't know why you would put something like in that storage. Possibly someone died and the items in the safe were a secret of theirs. Or the owner of the safe fell sick and their partner just put all of their stuff in the unit due to having to move. Or mental illness. Seriously, it's probably a sad story but is very interesting that your dad got that lucky. Not really what you're asking for, but my father's first wife made beautiful 21st photo albums for their 3 children. It had photos and mementos from birth to 21 along with every school photo and report card, pictures from birthdays and holidays, and photos of them in scouts. When my brother passed away, my dad tossed his album into the shed to make his room into a guest bedroom. When his ex-wife came for the funeral, she was devastated to find it had been water damaged, and my father wouldn't let her take it home with her even though she was the one who made it, and he clearly didn't give a frick about it. Recently, while he was on holiday, I broke into his house and took it, and I'm mailing it back to her. I feel she deserves to have it. My ex and I had a unit together. When we split, we agreed to each pay half. She stopped paying her half, so I'll let it go. I didn't have anything worth keeping really. She did. Lost all her family heirlooms, including her great grandmother's jewelry collection. It was worth close to 20k. I didn't realize it was in there when I let it go. Oops. Guess you should have paid your half of the $90 a month. I feel bad for this woman, but 1. She's way too cheap and idiotic to expect that someone would pay her half, and 2. Also stupid for leaving family heirlooms in a place like that. I would never place something highly valued in a unit. I had my grandmother's 71 Cadillac Coupe de Ville in a storage place. Bill was paid up front. Long story short, got busy with life, went back to get it 4 months after expiry and the owner of the place said he crushed it. Obvious lie. He said he tried to contact me. Another lie because he's been a patient at my clinic for 10 years and said he couldn't get a hold of me. So I got the lawyer and received back a letter saying that I owed them money for the car leaking oil in his unit and it cost $3,000 to clean. The car had 48,000 miles on it and had never seen a winter. I reported stolen to the police and searched the VIN through a friend who works at a dealership every few months hoping it turns up. But I have a feeling it's still there. It's a mech car worth about $7,000, but means a ton to me. They probably made the old VIN disappear and slapped a new one from a wrecked car onto it. Not me but my friend. She had great grandma's antique furniture in her unit. When she described the situation, it really was her fault. She made a choice of skipping a few months' payments and not telling them her new address rather than swallow her pride and ask for help from family and friends. I have my unit on autopay. Someone else in this thread thought they were on autopay. It didn't end well. I lost my grandmother's collection of china and furniture because of an error at the storage site. The unit next to mine had unpaid rent, but someone made a typo and my unit was auctioned off. I lost about $18,000 worth of stuff, and all I got was an empty apology and no compensation. They wouldn't even tell me who bought my grandmother's stuff. This happened 5 years ago and I am still furious. The company that ran the units is out of business and nowhere to be seen now, so it is unlikely I will ever get my grandmother's stuff back. You had a legitimate lawsuit on your hands. Sorry that happened. All of my books, in particular, a first edition of Winnisburg, Ohio, might not have had much dollar value, but man it hurts to think about. My parents went through a real tough divorce. They put all our stuff in storage then let it get taken. Which was everything I owned as a kid, including signed Joe Montana rookie card, and a football signed by the 1994 KC Chiefs that included Derek Thomas, Marcus Allen and Montana. My dad is crying for you somewhere. My mom had a storage unit for our stuff after she finally left her abusive boyfriend and we stayed at my aunt's. Among the furniture and clothes was also my Boo Bear, a childhood teddy bear I'd had since birth. I carried it everywhere until I was 12 years old. Yes, I got made fun of, but as an only child in an abusive household, he was my brother, someone to talk to, cry against, look to for comfort and someone to play with all in one. When we lost the unit, my mom was most devastated not by losing her things, she told me, but the heartbreak she saw in my face when she told 15-year-old me he was gone. I'm 39 years old now and I still miss him whenever I remember him. I am so sorry, I totally understand this. Years ago when I moved I stored my extra stuff with a friend for a month since I was basically couch surfing. His home got broken into and a bunch of stuff got taken including a box that had dolls' jewelry stuff I'd had since childhood. From the other side, I worked at public storage for a while. One of the best units we ever auctioned off had wall-to-wall neatly stacked boxes. We were only allowed to open the unit ahead of time and inventory what we could see, without touching anything. The unit sold for a couple grand, and I crap you not, every box was empty. We also found a couple M-Labs. This is the best response. I'm just imaging the buyer opening every box and slowly losing their crap a little more each time until they descend into madness. As a storage professional I'm dying to hear the answers in here, cause every time we open up a unit for auction it's the same boring crap. Crappy old furniture, old clothes, 15-year-old TV, maybe a few old gardening tools. etc. I did find a bag full of drugs once in a unit that didn't auction and we were trashing the contents. That was kind of interesting. Realistically, people with anything of value aren't skipping out on storage bills unless they die. I keep things of value in mine. Maybe nothing individually expensive, but it's stuff that won't fit in my apartment and that justifies $170 to store it. Sometimes I do wish it would burn down so I could just claim the insurance check and never have to deal with it again though. As someone who owns a junk removal service and do many storage unit cleanouts auctions, I highly advise to never let yourselves get to the point of having more stuff than you can handle. What I tell my clients is if you plan on keeping the stuff in storage for anything over 3 months, you might as well sell the stuff you plan on putting in there ASAP. Storage facilities will lure you in with great prices, move-in deals to the point where you think it's a great deal and fill it up floor to ceiling. Then by the 3rd month your costs are skyrocketing and you have all this stuff but a busy work schedule and no time to be dealing with moving around your stuff. At that point you have to ask yourself, how much is the stuff really worth to you? Are your storage expenses going to exceed the value of the stuff in the unit? Now I've done cleanouts for people who had been paying for their lockers for anywhere from a few months to 30 years. If it's not packed well or properly wrapped, your stuff risks mold, mouse and water damage. Certain situations I've seen total losses on amazing pieces and it's just sad. Now don't forget about moving in and out expenses. Costs to move in and out of these places can get hefty. Oftentimes I see moving companies or DIYs with U-Hauls moving stuff in, and then there's me coming in to rescue people's stuff, delivering it to them or having to charge them to haul it all away because they're sick of paying the rent, or the locker owners have died or disappeared, couldn't afford it anymore, and bam, all your stuff is gone and you've just footed a huge expense to be left with nothing in the end. Now I've seen both good and bad in storage lockers. Some things and situations are justified. Some things just why. Don't let yourself fall in the trap, else someone like me will be digging through your possessions and items to the point where I will know everything about you and your family's life, from where you lived, what schools you attended, what your careers were, how much $ you made, what your hobbies were, what you collected, what your hobbies were, what you looked like, and sometimes even what your favorite sex toys and fetishes were. I wish I could list and had a photographic trail of all the cool crap I've found in storage lockers or other cleanouts, but most probably won't believe me. I deal with volumes of stuff on a weekly basis and sometimes things do slip by my. A few weeks ago I accidentally threw away a Keith Haring Silly Willy sketch because I didn't recognize it as art. I found out when I went to go look up one of his shirts I was going to sell and then recognized it. At some point you have to just say frick it and move on with life. Crap happens. TLDR. Be a minimalist and spend your time on experiences, traveling with friends and people you love, not possessions. My uncle was working in a high-end storage facility in St. Louis when he was told by his manager the owners stopped paying and throw out the stuff. It was 4.5 million inches artwork, Picassos and several high-end pieces. He's on an episode of American Greed Season 1 Episode 3. Enjoy. If I knew it was legit art, there is no way in heck I would listen to my manager and throw away priceless artwork. I'd go to the feds before I just tossed a Picasso in a dumpster. All of my childhood memories, all my photo books, my stuffed animals, my toys, and all of my mother's childhood memories, stuffed animals, photo books, nothing of value to anyone else, but that meant the world to us. We lost it when I was a kid, but I'll never forget it like it was yesterday. It still breaks my heart. On the other side of things, I have bought some interesting units. One of the best belonged to a guy who apparently worked for the World Health Organization in the 80s. The entire thing was stuff he had collected traveling the world. Framed art, handmade jewelry from North Africa, sculptures, and even a very old Virgin Mary statue that must have been on a church altar at one time. I don't know what happened, but looking through the stuff, I'm guessing he had at least one kid. Maybe they didn't know about the unit or just didn't care. Lots of sad stories you pieced together too. One unit was full of trophies from high school basketball, including a state championship medal and plaque. There was also paperwork from drug arrests, and googling the name showed the person is now in prison for trafficking. Some other odds and ends I found: a massive pottery kiln, a brand new $1,000 rifle scope, a giant anvil, a dead cat someone had boxed up. My wife's unit, 121, was auctioned off on her birthday 3 years ago without our knowledge. We went in to retrieve the items and learned that they had been a mix-up. She had been paying for 211 the whole time. Who had been paying for hers until it got auctioned off. 211 was empty. She was crushed. Everything was in that locker. Photo albums, super duper valuable Beanie Babies, furniture, horse riding equipment. A day or two later the storage container company called and said they had found our stuff. It was in 112 the whole time. What had happened was she had them move her stuff for her. They gave her the keys to a different locker and then marked in her file a third locker. Now all that stuff is sitting in my back shed and garage because there's no room for it in my house. What a cluster of a company. Wonder how many other units were sold off without owner knowledge because of bad record keeping. All of our family photos, an expensive sealed SNES, European one, a really old e-guitar that belonged to my father, around 3k value, my teddy bear collection as a child, mother's jewelry, and most importantly my grandfather's typing machine. He was in the military and it was a gift to him from one of his comrades. He loved it and used to type us letters even when internet was a thing. Worst part is we never stopped paying. The storage facility changed owners due to bankruptcy and the new owners apparently didn't receive payments. We paid but to the bank account of the old owner, yet they said they send us a note with the new details we should send the money to. We didn't have much money to sue them and we couldn't prove we never received the letters since some people in our neighborhood stole packages and crap. Just some old oil lamp I inherited from my grandfather. It is a tattered and unpolished, so I doubt it was worth anything, but he always kept it close to him, so I guess it has sentiment value. A candy red 1977 Ford Bronco with a C4 automatic transmission conversion, 4-inch suspension lift, 2-inch body lift, fender flares, and 38-inch super swampers. I was deployed and my auto pay got messed up. They had no way to contact me, and after who knows how many months, they liquidated the unit. It makes me very sad, but in all likelihood, I would have had to sell it anyway. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.